"Clear the way, rookie!" He barked it loud enough for half the crowded lobby to turn their heads, then shoved a thick stack of files straight into my arms like I was some entry-level nobody. I caught them before they hit the marble floor, papers fluttering, and looked up. 15 minutes later, I walked onto the main stage as the CEO of Walton Pharmaceuticals. He went completely still in his seat. I paused, let the silence hang, then leaned into the mic. "Before we start today's keynote, security, please remove that person from the hall. My name is Andrea Walton, and I've been running this family company for the last 12 years. I'd just stepped off a red-eye from New York, running on maybe 3 hours of sleep, and whatever caffeine I could grab at the airport. My suitcase containing the tailored navy suit I was supposed to wear for the annual shareholder meeting and our 45th anniversary celebration was apparently still circling a baggage claim in Denver. So there I was in the lobby of this grand old Philadelphia hotel, dressed in a plain gray hoodie, dark jeans, and the kind of running shoes that had logged way too many miles. Hair pulled back in a messy ponytail, no makeup, laptop bag slung over one shoulder. I looked more like someone who'd wandered in off the street than the person about to address 800 shareholders, board members, and senior staff. The place was packed. Suits everywhere, badges swinging from lanyards, clusters of people shaking hands and exchanging business cards. The air smelled like fresh coffee and expensive cologne. I was standing near the entrance scanning for Laura, our events director, when it happened. He came barreling through the revolving doors, suit a little too shiny, tie slightly crooked, dragging his wife behind him by the hand. He was late, clearly late, and the look on his face said the world needed to move out of his way. He spotted me blocking part of the path and didn't hesitate. "Clear the way, rookie," he snapped, voice cutting through the lobby chatter. Before I could even process it, he thrust a heavy stack of presentation folders at me hard enough that I had to shift my weight to keep them from spilling everywhere. "Hold these. I'm already behind for the new hire session." His wife gave a little smirk like this was normal behavior. A few heads turned. Someone near the concierge desk paused mid-sip of their coffee. I looked down at the folders in my arms, then back up at him. He wasn't even looking at me anymore, just checking his watch and muttering something about not missing the networking hour. Something cold settled in my chest. Not anger, not yet. Just that quiet, sharp click I've felt in boardrooms when someone underestimates me one time too many. He started walking toward the elevators, expecting me to follow like an obedient assistant. I didn't say a word. I didn't hand the folders back. I didn't tell him who I was. Instead, I adjusted my grip, turned left toward the staff corridor I knew was just past the concierge, and swiped my executive key card. The door clicked open. I stepped through. The heavy door swung shut behind me with a solid thud, cutting off his confused shout from the other side. I stood there for a second in the quiet hallway, holding his files, listening to the muffled sound of him pounding on the locked door. He wanted me to carry his baggage. Fine. I was going to carry it all the way to the main stage. If you love watching entitled people who think family connections make them untouchable finally face the consequences they deserve, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Trust me, this one gets real good. A few minutes later, I was standing in the quieter staff corridor, the heavy door sealed behind me. The muffled banging faded as I walked toward the freight elevator, still clutching that stack of folders against my chest. They were heavier than they looked. Thick reports, printed slides, a laptop sleeve peeking out from the side pocket. I pressed the button for the executive floor. The elevator hummed upward, smooth and silent. I leaned against the wall, feeling the exhaustion from the flight mix with a surge of adrenaline. Part of me wanted to laugh at the absurdity. Another part, the part that had spent years navigating boardroom battles and family trust disputes, was already mapping out exactly how this would play out. The doors opened onto the 40th floor, all thick carpet and warm lighting. My private suite was at the end of the hall, reserved for the CEO during big events like this. I swiped my keycard and stepped inside. The room was generous, larger than most apartments, fruit basket on the table, city view through floor-to-ceiling windows, and a small envelope with my credentials waiting on the desk. I set the folders down carefully on the side table, then pulled out my phone. First text went to Caroline, my assistant, who'd been with me for 8 years. Here early. Baggage in Denver. Need the backup outfit from the carry-on kit, black suit, the severe one. Sweet now. Reply came almost instantly. On my way up. Second text to Laura Mitchell, our internal events director, who'd been handling these shareholder meetings since my father's time. Made it in through the back. Running casual today, long story. I'll be ready for the main stage. Everything on schedule, Laura called instead of texting. Andrea, she said the second I picked up, relief clear in her voice. We were tracking your flight. I was about to send someone shopping if your bags didn't show. You okay? Tired but fine, I said, glancing at the folders. Actually, I've got a small situation. Ran into one of the new hires downstairs. He handed me some materials to carry. A pause on the line. You're kidding. Wish I was. He was in a rush, didn't look twice. I brought the stuff up with me. Laptop's in there, looks important. Laura knew me well enough not to push for details right away. Want me to send security to retrieve it? No, I said quickly. Leave it with me for now. Let him wonder where it went. If anyone asks, say it was turned in and is being held for verification. She let out a low laugh. You're planning something. Just making sure he feels the weight of urgency he was so worried about. Understood. I'll keep the front desk in the loop. Your mic check is at 2:30, main stage at 3 sharp. Backup outfit is already in the closet, Caroline texted me. Thanks, Laura. I hung up and turned to the folders. Curiosity 1. I wasn't going to dig through personal emails or anything invasive, but the outer pockets were fair game. I unfastened the front flap. A stack of freshly printed business cards slid out. Tyler Brooks, Sales Development Associate, Walton Pharmaceuticals, driving growth through relationships. I actually snorted. Below the tagline was his email phone and a LinkedIn QR code. Driving growth. Right. There was also a printed agenda for the new hire orientation starting in less than an hour, room 12B, 11 o'clock. Perfect timing. A knock at the door. Caroline let herself in with her master key garment bag over one arm, makeup case in the other. She took one look at me, hoodie, messy hair, running shoes, and didn't blink. Rough flight. Delayed twice, bags in Denver. You're a lifesaver. She hung the black suit in the bathroom, laid out shoes, then eyed the folders on the table. Those yours? Not exactly. Souvenir from the lobby. Caroline raised an eyebrow but didn't ask. She'd seen enough over the years. I headed for the shower, hot water, 15 minutes to wash off the plane and reset. When I came out, the suit was steamed and waiting, tailored black pants, crisp white blouse, fitted blazer that meant business. Severe, minimalist, impossible to mistake for anything but authority. I pulled my hair into a sleek, low bun, added subtle makeup just enough to look sharp, not overdone. Caroline clipped the heavy CEO badge to my lapel. Andrea Walton, Chief Executive Officer, all access. It felt like armor clicking into place. I looked in the mirror. The exhausted traveler was gone. The woman staring back could command a room of 800 without raising her voice. I picked up Tyler's folders again, tucked them under my arm. Laura had the right idea. Let him sweat a little longer. I texted her one more time. Keep a spot open for me in the back of the new hire orientation. Unobtrusive. Need to do some quiet observation before the main event. Her reply, already done. See you there. I slipped my phone into my blazer pocket, took a steady breath, and headed for the door. He wanted someone to carry his materials. I was happy to oblige, just not in the way he expected. By 11, I'd slipped into room 12B on the mezzanine level. The orientation session was already underway, about 50 new hires seated in rows of hotel chairs, notebooks, open coffee cups in hand. I took a spot in the very back corner, blazer pulled close, badge tucked away inside my pocket. No one glanced twice, everyone's attention was on the front where a facilitator was running through company history slides. Then Tyler stepped up to the small podium for the Leadership Insights segment. He'd somehow gotten his replacement materials, probably grabbed extras from the registration desk, and looked composed again, suit straightened, confidence dialed back up. Megan sat in the front row, smiling proudly as he began. He launched right into it. "Great to be here with all of you," he said, scanning the room like he owned it. "I've only been with Walton Pharma a short time, but I've already learned how critical it is to establish authority from day one." A few nods from the audience, mostly polite. He leaned forward. "Let me share a quick story from this morning. I was rushing to this very session, important stuff, right? And someone was blocking the lobby path. Looked like a newbie, casual clothes, standing there clueless." He chuckled, expecting laughs. "I told her straight, move aside and grab my materials. She did. That's leadership. You don't wait for permission to take charge, you assert it." A couple of awkward coughs rippled through the room. One young woman in the second row shifted uncomfortably, exchanging a look with the guy next to her. Another whispered something I couldn't catch. Tyler didn't notice. He kept going. In sales, especially, hesitation kills deals. Whether it's a vendor, a colleague, or anyone lower in the chain, you set the tone immediately. That's how you climb. He puffed up a little. "Family connections help get your foot in the door, sure, but real leaders prove themselves by dominating every interaction." The facilitator smiled tightly, trying to move on. But the energy in the room had shifted, subtle but there. People weren't nodding anymore. A few were frowning openly. I sat still, jaw tight, taking it all in. He was using that moment, my moment, as his badge of toughness, turning disrespect into a leadership parable. The session wrapped 10 minutes early. New hires filed out, murmuring among themselves. I waited until the room mostly cleared, then stood and headed for the side exit. That's when Richard Coleman appeared in the doorway, blocking my path without realizing it. He was deep in conversation with one of the board members, but spotted me and broke into a wide grin. "Andrea," he boomed, excusing himself and striding over. Richard had been my father's closest partner in building the company, major shareholder, industry legend in pharmaceuticals. He pulled me into a quick hug. "Didn't expect to see you at the rookie talk. Scouting talent already." "Something like that," I said, smiling back. He lowered his voice conspiratorially. "Your quarterly numbers came through last night, outstanding. That new distribution deal in Europe, brilliant. We need to discuss expansion at the board dinner tonight." "Absolutely, Richard. I've got some ideas on the pipeline approvals too." He clapped my shoulder. "That's why this company's in the best hands it's ever been. Your dad would be proud." From the corner of my eye, I saw Tyler pause near the door, folders in hand again, watching the exchange. His expression flickered confusion, maybe a hint of recognition, but Richard was already turning away, waving as he left. Tyler hesitated, then hurried out after Megan. I stayed a moment longer, letting the conversation with Richard settle. Proof, if I needed any, that the people who actually mattered knew exactly who ran things. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. 3 o'clock sharp, I stood in the wings of the main hall. The space was massive, rows of seats filled with shareholders, executives, board members, and key staff, easily 800 people. Lights dimmed low, a soft blue glow pulsing across the stage projection screens, ready with the company logo. From my spot behind the curtain, I scanned the front sections, reserved for major stakeholders and family badges. There they were, 3rd row, center aisle. Tyler had managed a prime seat, Megan right beside him. He looked relaxed now, leaning over to chat with the person next to him, gesturing confidently, probably dropping hints about his connections. Megan nodded along, hand on his arm. They both seemed settled, like they belonged there. A stage manager with a headset gave me the 2-minute signal. I adjusted my blazer, took a slow breath. The hall quieted as the lights shifted. The MC, a senior VP who'd been with the company 20 years, walked out to the podium. His voice boomed through the speakers. Ladies and gentlemen, shareholders, partners, and team members, welcome to Walton Pharmaceuticals' annual meeting and our 45th anniversary celebration. Today, we're honored to have our leaders share the vision that's taken us from a regional player to a national force in drug development and distribution. Please welcome the woman who's guided us through record growth for over a decade, the Chief Executive Officer of Walton Pharmaceuticals, Andrea Walton. Applause started strong building as I stepped into the spotlight. The lights hit hard, bright white, making the back rows disappear, but illuminating the front with perfect clarity. I walked center stage, no rush, hands clasped behind my back. The clapping continued, genuine and loud. I let it wash over me, then raised one hand slightly to quiet the room. Silence fell fast. I scanned the front rows slowly, found them immediately. Tyler had been clapping politely, networking smile in place. Then his eyes locked on me. The shift was instant. His hands froze mid-motion, mouth parted just enough to show the shock. Color drained from his face. He blinked hard like he could reset the image. Megan noticed first, followed his stare, then stiffened, grip tightening on his arm. A murmur started nearby. Someone who'd been in the lobby that morning recognized the connection. Another from the orientation whispered to their neighbor. The ripple spread, heads turning, quiet comments passing row to row. Tyler leaned toward the person beside him, mouthing something frantic. The man, a mid-level director, glanced at me, then back at Tyler, and subtly shifted away. Megan's expression went from confusion to dawning horror. She knew now. They both did. I held Tyler's gaze for a long beat. No smile yet, just steady, unblinking authority. He tried to sink lower in his seat, shoulders hunching, but there was nowhere to go. The aisle was clear, but leaving now would draw every eye. He was pinned, the weight of 800 people watching, waiting for me to speak. And every second of silence made it heavier. I finally stepped closer to the microphone. The room held its breath. Perception. I let the word hang in the amplified quiet. The screen behind me shifted to a simple slide. The company values integrity, respect, innovation. We spend billions developing drugs that save lives. I continued pacing slowly, but the real foundation of Walton Pharmaceuticals has always been something simpler: how we treat each other. I paused at the edge of the stage, looking out over the rows. In a family business spanning 3 generations, leadership isn't about titles or bloodlines. It's about earning trust every single day. A few nods from the board section. Richard smiled from his seat. I clicked the remote. A new slide appeared, a plain bullet point reading, "Respect starts at every level." This morning, I said, voice calm but carrying, I arrived after a long flight. I wasn't in a suit. I was tired, dressed comfortably, standing near the entrance. The room leaned in slightly. A new employee approached me in a hurry. He didn't ask, he commanded. Told me to clear the path and handed over his materials to carry. When I didn't move fast enough, the message was clear: I was just staff, someone to order around. Gasps rippled through the front rows. Someone muttered, "Unbelievable." I kept my tone even. Later in the new hire orientation, that same employee shared the incident as an example of strong leadership. His words: "You have to assert authority immediately, even if it means putting someone lower in the chain in their place." Groans spread. Laughter, sharp disbelieving followed. Heads turned toward the third row. Tyler sat rigid, face flushed deep red. Megan stared straight ahead, hands clenched in her lap. I didn't look directly at them. Not yet. Family connections might open doors I went on, but they don't excuse treating colleagues or anyone like obstacles. The laughter died into uncomfortable silence. I clicked again. Slide in. Family business arrogance costs more than money. It costs legacy. We've built this company on collaboration, on recognizing potential no matter what someone looks like or where they stand in the org chart. When we forget that, we risk everything we've worked for. Applause started, scattered, then grew. A woman in the fifth row stood briefly. Others joined. I raised a hand gently. There's no place here for the idea that respect is transactional, given only when you know someone's position. More applause stronger. I walked back to center. Today reminds us why our code of conduct exists, why we train on inclusion, why in a company started by my father and carried forward together, we hold everyone to the same standard, no exceptions. The room erupted, standing ovation in sections. Tyler remained seated, eyes fixed on the floor. Megan whispered something urgent to him, but he didn't respond. I let the applause continue a moment, then clicked to the financial overview slide. Now, I said, voice steady over the fading claps. Let's talk about where we're headed next. The energy shifted, charged, focused. Every time I mentioned growth or culture, eyes flicked briefly toward the third row. The message had landed exactly where it needed to. The Q&A session opened smoothly. Microphones passed to shareholders with questions on pipeline timelines, regulatory hurdles, acquisition strategy. I answered each with data confidence, the room engaged. Then a hand shot up from the third row. Tyler was on his feet, voice projecting without a mic cracking at the edges. This is all a misunderstanding. The hall went dead quiet. Every head turned. He stepped into the aisle, face blotchy, pointing up at the stage. She's my sister, half-sister, whatever. I didn't know it was her this morning. She wasn't dressed like the CEO, a collective intake of breath. Someone near the front let out a low, "Oh." Megan stood too, grabbing his sleeve. Tyler, sit down, but he shook her off. I have every right to be here. Family badge. I'm not some random employee. This is being blown out of proportion. His words echoed in the sudden silence. I waited a beat, then leaned calmly into the microphone. That I said, voice clear and even, is exactly the issue. The room stirred. Respect in this company, in this family, doesn't depend on recognizing titles or blood relations or how someone is dressed. Scattered applause started. Tyler's mouth opened again, but nothing came out. Megan tugged harder. Tyler, please. He ignored her. You can't just humiliate me in front of everyone. Dad would never. I raised one hand, cutting him off without raising my voice. Mr. Vargas, I said, looking toward the side of the stage. Security appeared instantly, two professionals in dark suits led by Mr. Vargas, head of event security for years. Please escort Mr. Brooks and his guest out. They're disrupting the meeting. Tyler's eyes widened. You're serious? Megan went pale. This is embarrassing, Andrea. Come on. But Mr. Vargas was already moving down the aisle, polite but firm. Sir, ma'am, this way, please. Tyler resisted at first, arms stiff. You can't do this? I'm family. The words hung there. A slow clap began in the back. One person, then a row, then more. It built into rhythmic applause, deliberate, unmistakable. People rose to their feet section by section. Not for the keynote anymore. For the line that had just been drawn. Megan tried one last plea, voice shaking. We'll be quiet, I promise. Mr. Vargas shook his head. Policy is clear. Please don't make this harder. They took Tyler by the elbows, gentle, professional, unstoppable. Megan followed, head down, clutching her purse. The applause followed them up the center aisle, steady and loud. Tyler twisted once, face twisted in fury and humiliation. But the sound swallowed whatever he tried to shout. The doors at the back swung open, then closed behind them. The clapping continued another few seconds, then transitioned into a full standing ovation. I stood still at the podium, letting it happen. No smile, just acknowledgement. When it finally died down, I spoke again. Thank you. Let's continue with the next question. The energy in the room had changed, lighter, sharper, unified. The rest of the session flowed without interruption. That evening, I was back in the sweet shoes, off glass of red in hand, watching the city lights from the window. My phone buzzed on the table. First, an email from HR, formal notice, Tyler Brooks terminated effective immediately for violation of code of conduct. specifically public disrespect toward company leadership. Standard procedure after an incident like today's. Copy to legal. Next, a message from the trust administrator. The small inheritance portion set aside for Tyler in my father's estate tied to an ethics clause he'd never bothered to read had been revoked. It wasn't much compared to the whole, but it was symbolic. Enough to sting. Then the personal one started. Megan first text after text. Andrea, please. He's devastated. He didn't mean it like that. Can we talk for Dad's sake? I read them once. Blocked the number. A call came in from an unsaved contact, my stepmother Elaine. I let it ring out, then listened to the voicemail anyway. Andrea, honey, this has gone too far. Tyler's beside himself. He's family. Whatever happened today, we can fix it at home. Call me back. Her voice cracked at the end. I deleted the message. Blocked that number too. Another text from Tyler himself, new phone probably. I'm sorry. Really. I messed up. Can we just talk? I stared at the screen a long moment. No anger left. Just clarity. Blocked. Deleted the thread. The fallout spread quietly through the company network. Internal clips from the meeting circulated in private channels, nothing public, but enough for staff and partners to see. Comments on industry LinkedIn groups started appearing. People who'd worked with us for years posting support. Offers to collaborate pouring in stronger than before. Richard sent a short note handled with class. Proud to be part of this. I poured another glass, sat on the sofa. No regrets. Not about the decision. Family business in America means blending blood with boardrooms, but it doesn't mean tolerating entitlement. Arrogance wrapped in family ties costs more than money. It erodes trust, scares talent, weakens everything we've built. Today proved that drawing a hard line protects the legacy far better than pretending problems don't exist. I'd given Tyler every chance to learn respect the easy way. He chose the hard one, and now the consequences were his to carry. Alone. I raised the glass to the quiet room, to clear boundaries, to a company and a life free of that weight.